Today is election day in the United States, and we are choosing our next president. And this is going to have a huge influence on our lives here in the United States. But I think also the result of today's election is going to affect people around the world. So, in this video, I'm going to give you a really simple guide to how the election process works here in the United States. The US political system is really dominated by two political parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. So the president always belongs to one of these two parties. The Republicans are the conservative party in the United States. And this year, the political candidate for the Republican Party is Donald Trump, who's hoping to secure another 4 years in office. The Republican Party in recent years has stood for such issues as tighter controls on immigration, lowering taxes, and also gun rights. And support for the Republican Party tends to, in general, come from the more rural parts of America. Republican presidents include Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, and George W. Bush. Now, the Democratic Party is the more liberal party, and their candidate for this year's election is Joe Biden, who's best known for serving as vice president under President Barack Obama for 8 years. So the Democratic Party is known for its more liberal stances on immigration and civil rights and climate change. And this party believes that the government should be more involved in people's lives, like in providing healthcare insurance for them, for example. Now, support for this party tends to be more in the urban areas. And some famous presidents who were Democratic are John F. Kennedy and, of course, Barack Obama. So, how is a winner decided? Well, both candidates will compete for electoral votes. What are electoral votes? Well, each state has a certain number of electoral votes, and the amount of electoral votes that a state gets is based partly on the population. So there are 538 electoral votes that are up for grabs, and the candidate who wins 270 or more electoral votes will be the winner. Now, all of the states, except for two of the states, have a winner takes all system. So what this means is whichever candidate has the most votes in that state wins all of the electoral votes for that state. Now, most states lean toward one party or another. So there are really only about a dozen, only about 12 states that could go either way. They could go either Republican or Democratic. And these are what we call battleground states. So what you see with the candidates is oftentimes they will spend their time in these battleground states because they're really trying to win the state over to their side. Now, who can vote? Well, anybody who's over 18 years old and who has registered to vote can vote, but it's not required. It's optional. Also, another thing is that we're not just voting for our US president. Obviously, that's the most important choice this year. But we're also voting on members of our Congress and our local officials as well. So, how do you vote? Well, you have to go to a polling station and you go in there. And in my case, in my town, I go in and there's a booth and it's electronic and I just vote there and I'm finished. But because of the pandemic this year, they're having to handle things differently. So in my town, I had to fill out a paper ballot and I had to turn that paper ballot in. So usually we know the results of the election by the next morning, we know. And usually by the evening, late evening, most of the precincts have reported. And so we have a pretty good idea of who's won the election. But this year they're saying that it's going to be delayed. It might be days, it may even be a week or weeks before they're able to count all of the ballots because we're having to do it old school. We're having to do it through paper ballots, which takes a longer period of time. So we're not exactly sure when we're going to know who our next president is going to be. So I wonder who's going to win. We really don't know. I have no idea who's going to win this election. It's going to be a real surprise. Who do you think is going to win? Well, I hope that you've enjoyed this explanation. It's a really simplified explanation of how the voting process works here. I know it's really different than in other areas of the world. And if you have any questions, please leave me a comment. Also, subscribe and subscribe so that when I post more videos like this, you will be sure to be notified right away, and hit that notification bell too. Okay? So have a great day. Take care. Bye.